Hello, my friends. Today we are talking all things butternut squash. I'm in Michigan and things are really starting to cool off and there's all like the fall vibes going on. Have you ever gone into the grocery store and seen one of these bad boys and been like, I need to buy this? And then you get it home and you're like, crap, I have no idea what to do with this. So today I'm going to show you, and there is going to be something surprising that I am going to make out of this so that none of this goes to waste, and I mean none of it. So my name is Christy with Help for Your Journey, where my goal is to encourage and inspire you in your trim, healthy mama lifestyle. So if all of this butternut squash talk sounds good, stay with me. Okay, so the first thing that I did with my butternut squash is I gave it a good wash and I patted it dry. Now I'm going to peel this butternut squash, and I was reading that peeling it can be quite the difficult task. So what I did was I cut off both of the ends of the squash. This can also be a difficult task. You guys, get a sharp knife. If you, like, I'm telling you what, my parents, they literally were using the same knives in their house for like 30 years. And you couldn't even cut like anything with them. Get yourself a sharp knife. Or if you have good knives, sharpen them. A lot of times a knife set will come with a sharpener. Sharpen your knives. It will change your life. So thankfully, my husband does a great job keeping our knives sharp. So I actually was able to cut the ends off of this squash pretty easy. Then I put it on a plate and I put it in the microwave for 3 minutes. It is warm, but it is not too hot for me to handle right out of the microwave. So what I am going to do is I'm going to work on peeling this. This is supposed to be easier, so let's just see what happens. You want to get, okay, see, it's gonna be, okay, here we go. This is a little bit better. We want as little of the squash actually in this as possible. And what I read, I'm gonna try to show this to you. I don't know if you can see this. You can see there's like green lines coming down in the squash. What you want to do is you want to peel this until you don't see the green lines anymore. So this is going to take me a second. I'm going to peel this. I'm going to scoop the guts out of it, and I'm going to separate the seeds out, and then I will be back with you. So see you in a second. Okay, let me come back before I get too far because I feel like there's a couple things that I want to say. So what I read was that you're supposed to peel until you don't see those green lines anymore. Can anyone tell me if that is really true or if that is just some kind of a myth? Because if we are peeling enough to get the green stripes off, then you are getting more of the squash. You're peeling more of the squash away. This is actually a humongous bowl, and there's a lot of peel in here. What we're going to do is we're actually gonna roast this peel, and we're gonna roast the seeds, and we're gonna eat them as a snack. And I've actually made this before, and it was delicious. That is how we are not going to waste any of this squash. I wanted to show you, once I had it peeled, which I will say I do think the microwaving helped, that was 3 minutes, is if you stand it upright, and again, you use your sharp knife, and then you just very easily start at this smaller end and work your way down. It was not hard to get this cut. Now, there's not a lot of seeds in this. There's a lot of squash here. We are gonna use this in 2 different meals, and we may even have enough to freeze some. I'm not sure. So I am going to remove the gunky stuff, get the seeds separated out, throw the seeds in the bowl with this peel, and then I will be back. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to show you is, here's my seeds. So I got all the goop off of them and I put them out on this towel and I just patted them to dry. I'm gonna add these to my bowl of peel and I'll show you what I'm gonna do with that in a minute. The other thing I wanted to show you, this is my bag of vegetable scraps that I keep in my freezer. And whenever I'm peeling vegetables for whatever reason, a salad, cooking, whatever, I take the scraps of clean vegetables, of course, and I put them in this bag and I keep them in my freezer until this gallon Ziploc bag is full. When this is full, I take some spices and some water and I put it in my Instant Pot and I make vegetable broth out of it. You guys, I might be like the weirdest person, but I get so much satisfaction out of using things that I would have normally, earlier in my life before I knew better, that I would have thrown away. And this is exactly one of those examples. I am going to take the ends of this butternut squash. They've got like the little stem thing still on them, fine. I'm putting them in this bag and I'm even taking the guts. And when you go to get the seeds out of these guts, you kind of have to work it, like massage it a little bit, because those seeds, they like to hide in there and you want to get all the seeds out because we are going to be able to use these. Well, we can either eat them as a snack or I'm thinking we might add them to one of the butternut squash recipes that I want to use later in the week. So I'm taking these guts and I am putting them right inside this bag. Literally, not one part of this butternut squash is going to be thrown in the garbage. And that to me is like one of the best feelings in the world. So I am going to get ready for the next step. I'll be right back. Okay, I have my oven preheating to 400 degrees. What I did was, this recipe for the seeds and the peel calls for you to put them in a bowl, drizzle with olive oil, use some salt and pepper, and then whatever other seasonings that you want. I honestly have no idea if this would be, I think that the seeds would be an S, but as far as the peel is concerned, I'm assuming it would be an E, so I don't want to drizzle it with olive oil. So I used some olive oil spray and I sprinkled it with salt and pepper. The recipe suggested some curry powder and some smoked paprika. I do love both of those spices, but I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to use these two things for. And so I don't want to box them in by using those particular spices. So I'm not going to do that this time. If you knew that you were going to eat these just as a snack, just pop them in your mouth, I would say go for it. Smoked paprika is my favorite spice in the world besides cinnamon. And so I would say go for that. If you like those spices, do it. So I am going to put these in the oven. It's 15 to 20 minutes. I think I may check about halfway through and give them a stir. But I'm not afraid to cook these as long as I think, that they need to be cooked in order to be done. And the recipe does say that if you leave them to sit in the oven after you turn the oven off, it helps them to get crispier. So I will definitely link that recipe in the description box. So I'm gonna set that right there. Now I wanna talk to you about actually cutting up the butternut squash. So this long part is easy to cut because it's just solid. When you get to this part where we scoop the seeds out, it's not hard. You just need to be careful. So I'm going to kind of get this piece and just set it to the side. And then for these ones, I'm just going to cut them into these half circles. I'm just gonna do a few to show you. I'm not making them real big. I'm just kind of trying to think like what size of a chunk would I want? All right, so just gonna cut them from there into strips. And then I'm gonna turn those sideways. And then I'm just going to cut them into cubes. So, a couple of ideas that I have to use this butternut squash in. I have a recipe for a soup that uses red lentils. And so I need 3 cups of squash raw to put in to cook with that soup. So I'm going to measure out 3 cups of this, put it in a baggie. Then I was thinking about doing another recipe that is more like, it's got quinoa, it's got kale, I think it has cranberries. It's just like this really fall salad. And I was thinking that the pumpkin seed, or not pumpkin seeds, that the squash seeds might go really well on that, but it would be an email. And so we would want to just use some of those seeds as a garnish because we don't want to up the fat content so much that we are putting it into crossover territory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish cutting up my butternut squash. I'm going to measure out 3 cups for the soup recipe, and then I'm going to get 4 cups on a sheet pan, and I'm going to roast that in the oven while I have my peels and my seeds going. If I have anything else left after that, I'm going to put it in a baggie and just stick it in the freezer. There's nothing that you have to do to get it ready to go in the freezer. You can just stick it in there. So I am going to get all of that done, and then when everything is out of the oven, I will come back to show you the final product. Final product, guys. This is what we have. Okay, let me show you these peels. They darken up. Now what ended up happening was I put them in, the recipe said 15 to 20 minutes. I put them in for 10 minutes, took them out, took out the ones that I could tell were done. You can tell if they still look wet, you'll know that you need to leave them in for longer. The smaller ones were done after 10 minutes. The bigger ones, I put them in for another 5, took out ones that were done, another 5, and then they were all done. And I just took the seeds out. The seeds were in there that whole time. These, if you're missing chips, these are okay. I'm gonna try one of these, and I want you to see. The problem is that my oven is on right now. It's cooling off, so you can hear it. So I'm gonna come over here. All right, ready? Can you hear that? So they're really good. A slight sweetness. I wish I would have used some of the other spices that the recipe called for, but these are really good, and I'm totally eating these. Like, I might have to fight my husband for these because they're really good. I would say I maybe have a half a cup of seeds. So let me taste one of these. It tastes like popcorn. I'm not even kidding. Oh, that's delicious. That's delicious. I wish I had a whole big old bag of those, although that would not be a good idea. This is my 4 cups of roasted squash. Couple of things I would say. Cut your pieces uniform, because I wasn't really paying attention to that. And so the recipe said 35 to 40 minutes at 400. I checked them at 20 minutes because I had put the squash in the microwave before I started any of this. I knew that it kind of had a head start on cooking. So I checked them after 20. The smaller ones were done, so then I had to pick out all of the smaller ones. I just stabbed them with a fork, and if the fork could go in it, then I knew it was done. And then I left the bigger pieces in for another 10, and then they were done. Also, do yourself a favor and use a piece of parchment paper on your baking sheet. I did not do that, and now my baking sheet is a hot mess. So just do it, guys. I didn't put any oil, spray, seasoning of any kind on that squash. I'm hoping that I don't regret that, but I know so often we cook foods like we're always slathering things in oil and we're always putting tons of spices. And I love spices just as much as the next guy, but sometimes it's okay to just let the flavor of the food shine through. As far as this roasted squash, I'm thinking this is gonna go on that salad that I was talking about, which is going to have a dressing and it's gonna have greens and it's gonna have a whole bunch of stuff with it. So I just thought, you know what, let's just roast it and leave it as is. Here is my 3 cups of uncooked squash that I will need for the red lentil soup that I was talking about. And then I had 2 more 2-cup bags of just the raw squash. You guys, look at everything that I got from one butternut squash. This is the season to buy them. You can get them, and as long as there's no like mold on it or like kind of cuts in it or anything like that, you can sit that in your pantry and it will last for a really long time. So now is the time to stock up and at least get one, at least just try it out and see. So what I am going to do is I am going to wait and actually make both of those recipes that I was talking about before I post this video to YouTube so that you can see both of the recipes that I make. So for you, it's only gonna be a second before I'm back, and for me, it's probably gonna be at least a day, if not longer. So I will see you back when it is time to make the first recipe using this butternut squash.